Okay, today we are going to talk about similar figures and how to find the missing side of a similar figure. You'll remember yesterday we talked about the three characteristics of similar figures were that they were the same shape, like these two triangles. They had the same angles, like this angle, these two angles are the same, and these two angles are the same, and then their sides were proportional. There are two ways to solve similar figure problems. One way is to use the scale factor, which is what we learned yesterday, and the other way is to use a proportion. You're going to see both ways as we go through these notes today. Number one gives you these two triangles and asks you to find the length of x, this missing side. You'll notice that these two triangles they're looking at each other, so they're not facing the same direction. So when you go to find your scale factor, you're going to have to keep that in account. But we're going to start by finding the scale factor. And if you'll remember from yesterday, that is new over old. And the way that this picture is written, we're going to call this little triangle our old one and the big triangle the new one. So in the new triangle, the only side that we know is the 240. And then in the old triangle, the side that corresponds to this 240 is the 120, because if they were both sitting up and facing the same direction, these two, the 240 and the 120, would be in the same place. So my old is 120. I can reduce this to 2, so my scale factor is 2. That means that this new triangle is 2 times bigger than the old triangle. So if I want to find x, I take the scale factor, which was 2, and multiply it times this corresponding side, or the side that corresponds to x. Well, x is this base down here, so the side in the old one that corresponds is the 70, so I'm going to multiply by 70. Well, 2 times 70 is 140. That's the missing side. So I found my scale factor, and then I took my scale factor times the corresponding side to get the one that's missing. So let's do number 2. Number 2 is very similar. They're asking you to find this side right here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to find the scale factor. We're going to do new over old. This is the new one, or sorry, this is the old one. This is the new one. The only side we know in the new one is this 6 down here, so that's what we're going to use. The side of the old one that corresponds to this 6 is the 4 right here, because they're in the same place. 6 over 4 will reduce to 3 over 2. We're going to keep 3 over 2 as our scale factor. It's going to make it very easy. If I want to find x, this missing side, I take my scale factor, 3 over 2, and I'm going to multiply it times the side that corresponds to x. Here's x. The side that corresponds is this 3 over here in the old one. So I have to multiply my scale factor, 3 over 2, times that 3, and I'm going to make it a fraction by putting it over 1. And then I'm just going to multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 1 is 2. I can't leave this way, so I have to divide. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. That's your missing side. I took the scale factor, 3 over 2, times the corresponding side to get the missing side. Okay, number 3. Number 3 looks like there's only one triangle, but there really are two. There's a little triangle right here inside the great big triangle. We're going to use a proportion to solve this one so that you can see that that works just like finding the scale factor. It asks here for you to find the approximate length. So we're going to end up rounding, but not until the very end. So we're going to set up a proportion. We're just going to use corresponding sides. The base of this little triangle is 10, and the side that corresponds to that in the big triangle is this 12 right here, so I'm going to do 10 over 12. I'm looking for this side right here, and so that I'm looking for that, and the side that corresponds to my x is this 10 right here. So here's what my proportion looks like. I did 10 over 12 equals x over 10. So I did these two sides and these two sides. Then to solve a proportion, y'all know we cross multiply. 10 times 10 is 100. 12 times x is 12x. And then I'm going to have to divide so I can get that missing side. So I'm going to have to do 100 divided by 12. Well, 12 will go into 100 8 times. Let's put our decimal. 12 will go into 43 times, and this is going to keep going. Since it says approximate, I can approximate. So I use the squiggly equal sign instead of a straight one because it's not exactly this. We're approximating. 8.3 is about 8 inches. So my missing side is about 8 inches. And all I did was use a proportion. You could find the scale factor too for this one, but this way you have seen scale factor and you've seen proportion. Now question number 4, we're going to talk about later. So you can do this with it right now. When we get to where we're talking about area of triangles, we'll come back and we'll discuss that problem, but today we're not going to do it. So the next question, number 5, you have 2 rectangles, they're similar. The question here asks, what scale factor is used to dilate rectangle ABCD, this one, to rectangle EFGH? When we are given the words, you have to read them to determine what's new and what's old. If I'm taking ABCD to EFGH, that makes EFGH my new one and ABCD my old one. You have to read the words to know. So this is the old and this is the new. So number 1, we're going to find the scale factor, which is new over old. The only side of the new one we know is the 12, and the side that corresponds to that in the old one is the 16. And if you simplify that fraction, you come up with 3/4. So my scale factor is 3/4. Now they want us to find the length of FG right here. The side in the old rectangle that corresponds to FG doesn't have a measurement. But if you remember what you already know about rectangles, you should know that parallel sides are always the same. So if this is 12, that means this one's also 12. So I do know that one, they just didn't label it. So when I want to find the length of FG, I take my scale factor, which was 3/4, and I multiply it times the corresponding side, which in this case is the 12. I put it over 1 to make it a fraction. 3 times 12 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4. And when I divide 36 by 4, I get 9 centimeters is my missing side. So I found my scale factor, multiplied it times the corresponding side to get my missing side. Okay, 2 more questions. Number 6. Triangle CBA, the big one, is similar to triangle XYZ, the small one. Now if you'll notice, these triangles are not sitting they're not sitting the same way. This one's laying down on its base and this one is sitting up. And so when you're looking at corresponding sides in a minute, that's going to be important. They want us to find the length of AC, which is right here. Question 1 asks what scale factor is used to dilate XYZ to CBA. The way this is written, this CBA is our new, XYZ is the old, because we're going from XYZ to CBA. Now if you look at your picture, XYZ is this small one, this one's the old, and this one is the new. And we got that from reading the words. XYZ to CBA makes CBA the new one. So to find scale factor, new over old. So the new one, the only side we know in the new one is the 48. The side that corresponds to this 48 in the old one is this 12, because these are not sitting the same way. If I were to turn this so that it was facing the same direction as this one, the 12 would be on the base. So this is my corresponding side. 48 over 12 simplifies down to 4, so my scale factor is 4. So if I want to find how long AC is, I take my scale factor, which is 4, and I multiply it times the corresponding side. Well, the side that corresponds to the X is this 5 right here. 4 times 5 is 20, so my missing side is 20. Last question. Trapezoids ABCD and EFGH are similar, so these two things are similar. We want to find the measures of the other three sides of trapezoid EFGH. So I want to find all the other missing sides on here. So I want to find this side, and this side. So I have to do this 3 times. So the first thing we're going to do is find the scale factor. New over old. This is the old. This is the new. Well, the only side you know in the new one is the 6. The side that corresponds to the 6 in the old one is the 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So my scale factor is 2 because 3 times 2 gives me 6. So if I want to know side A, I take my scale factor 2 multiplied times the corresponding side, which is 4. So side A is 8 feet. Side B, this one down here, my scale factor is 2. The side that corresponds to it is 6. 2 times 6 is 12 feet. And then side C, the scale factor is still 2. The side that corresponds to this C is the 5 right here. So 2 times 5 is 10 feet. So side A is 8 feet. Side B is 12 feet, and side C is 10 feet. I just had to multiply everything times 2 because this trapezoid is 2 times bigger than this trapezoid. That's similar figures. You should be able to now do your homework. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day.